Imagine a threat literally so small you can't see it, taste it, or even feel it, yet it harbors the power to completely shut down the human body in a matter of hours. We live in a world absolutely surrounded by extreme danger, from the venom of a spider to the engineered horrors of modern warfare. But among all the chemical and biological terrors that exist on our planet, there is a strict hierarchy of death. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to go on a pretty intense journey into the absolute extremes of toxicology to uncover a terrifying reality about the world right under our noses.
So what is the absolute deadliest substance on Earth? It's a question that sounds like it belongs in a sci-fi thriller, right? Is it some radioactive isotope cooked up in a classified underground lab? A synthetic nerve agent designed for mass destruction? Or is it something just quietly waiting in the dirt beneath our feet? Well, the answer is going to completely shock you. But before we reveal it, we really need to understand exactly how scientists measure that razor-thin line between life and death.
Chapter 1. Measuring Death. The LD50 Metric.
To find the deadliest substance in existence, we have to look at the cold, clinical reality of how lethality is actually calculated. The key metric here is the LD50, which stands for the median lethal dose. In the scientific world, you can't just casually label something very poisonous. You have to prove it with hard data. The LD50 represents the exact, specific amount of a substance required to kill 50% of a tested population.
Here's the crucial thing you need to remember. In toxicology, the math works backward from what you might expect. The smaller the LD50 number, the more potent and terrifying the threat. We aren't looking for a chemical that takes a whole bucket to take you down. We are hunting for those rare agents where the lethal dose is practically invisible.
Chapter 2. The Assassin's Arsenal. Synthetics and Biological Agents. Throughout history, mankind and nature have essentially been engaged in a terrifying arms race to produce highly lethal substances. Let's look at this rogues gallery for a second. We've got synthetic nerve agents like VX and Novichok, engineered by militaries to be unbelievably deadly. Then there's ricin, a devastating biological toxin derived right from plants. And of course, polonium-210, a highly radioactive and carcinogenic isotope famous for its use in targeted assassinations. These are absolutely among the most feared substances in existence. But how do they actually do their damage?
The biology of a neurotoxin is basically a systematic, catastrophic biological failure. Normally, an electrical signal travels down your nerve, triggering the release of a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. This is what tells your muscles to move. But when these toxins invade, they completely block that release. The result? Flaccid paralysis. Your muscles just go entirely limp. You quickly lose the ability to speak, to swallow, and ultimately to breathe.
Now, when comparing these agents, the danger level escalates wildly as that lethal dose shrinks. The LD50 for these specific substances is terrifyingly small, requiring only microscopic amounts to end a human life. It makes them the perfect, untraceable weapons. We so often think of these poisons purely in the context of spies, espionage, and warfare. But what happens when exposure isn't an intentional act of malice? What happens when a microscopic amount of a hyper-lethal toxin is encountered by pure, tragic accident?
Chapter 3. A Tragic Spill. The Karen Wetterhand Story.
To truly grasp the stakes of this microscopic world, consider the heartbreaking story of renowned chemist Karen Wetterhand. Her fate was literally sealed by just a few drops of a highly toxic heavy metal compound. It accidentally slipped onto her latex glove during a completely routine laboratory procedure. It seemed like such an incredibly insignificant exposure at the time, but in the world of extreme toxins, a few drops are far more than enough.
The timeline of this incident is just chilling. Day 1, the accidental exposure. Then, for months, there was this silent, latent period. No symptoms whatsoever, but the toxin was already inside her, relentlessly destroying her nervous system. By month 5, delayed neurological symptoms suddenly began to manifest. And by month 10, despite receiving the absolute best medical care in the world, she tragically passed away. A completely inevitable death, all caused by a microscopic drop of poison.
Her story serves as a deeply emotional and stark reminder for all of us. Our physical bodies are incredibly fragile. We can be entirely broken by things we can't even see. Nature's elements are without a doubt entirely unforgiving.
But here is the ultimate cliffhanger. As absolutely terrifying as radioactive isotopes, synthetic nerve agents, and heavy metals are, nature has actually created something infinitely worse, something that makes the assassin's arsenal look practically harmless by comparison. Any guesses on what it is?
Chapter 4. The Ultimate Toxin.
Clostridium botulinum.
The deadliest substance known to humanity isn't cooked up in some secret military bunker. It is a naturally occurring neurotoxin produced by a bacterium, the exact same one responsible for the disease botulism. To truly understand its sheer, mind-boggling destructive scale, if properly prepared as an aerosol, just 1 single gram of botulinum toxin is enough to kill approximately 1 million people. 1 gram. It is the most potent acute toxin ever discovered by science, vastly more toxic than any snake or spider venom out there.
Let's look at the actual LD50, the human lethal dose. It is 5.0 times 10 to the power of -11 grams. I mean, that number is so unimaginably microscopic that the human brain practically short-circuits trying to comprehend it. We are talking about a billionth of a gram here.
To put that kind of math into perspective, think about a single grain of table salt. That grain weighs about 5 times 10 to the -4 grams. That means a single grain of salt is about 10 million times heavier than the lethal dose of this toxin. The deadliest substance on Earth is literally 10 million times lighter than a speck of salt. Let that sink in.
With that level of apocalyptic lethality, you would probably think this substance is locked away in the most secure vault on the planet, heavily guarded and kept as far away from humanity as physically possible, right? So how on earth does the deadliest poison ever discovered end up in our daily lives, sitting in clinics and doctors' offices all around the world?
Chapter 5, Poison as Medicine. The Botox Paradox.
In an absolutely stunning twist, the very first biological toxin to ever be licensed as a drug to treat human disease was botulinum toxin type A. You almost certainly know it by its commercial name, Botox. The very same properties that cause fatal flaccid paralysis are intentionally harnessed to heal us. By blocking acetylcholine in highly targeted, localized areas, the FDA has approved it to treat crossed eyes, involuntary eyelid and neck spasms, excessive sweating, overactive bladders, and yeah, of course, a whole host of cosmetic applications.
The difference between a weapon of mass destruction and a life-changing medicine literally comes down to 2 things: precise dose and exact location. By totally understanding the toxin's mechanism of action, scientists figured out how to inject unimaginably small amounts to calm overactive neuromuscular systems without, shutting down the patient's lungs in the process.
Obviously, doing this safely requires an incredibly rigorous manufacturing process. They have to ferment the specific Hall strain of the bacteria in controlled, low-oxygen environments. Then, they painstakingly purify the neurotoxin complex. Finally, it's administered in strictly controlled biological units, calibrated specifically to mouse LD50 assays, completely ensuring that it heals rather than harms.
We began this explainer searching for the single deadliest substance on Earth, and well, we definitely found it. But in this beautiful, kind of terrifying paradox, we also found that our greatest biological threat has actually become an incredible tool for modern medicine. It really forces us to ask one final provocative question. If the ultimate poison can be tamed to heal us, what other incredible, deadly secrets is nature hiding right in plain sight? Thank you so much for exploring the extremes of our world with me today, and I challenge you to look at the chemistry around you just a little bit differently from now on.